Let's begin with the intention. Take your note sheet and at the top of the page, write down the topic for today's drawing, gratitude. Or if you would like to make it more personal, write down my gratitude. Next, we're going to do 20 words in 2 minutes exercise. I'm inviting you to take 2 minutes to write a quick list of things you're grateful for. This stream of consciousness exercise will start firing the appropriate neurons on the topic we're drawing today. I'll set a timer, and for the next 2 minutes, just list as many things as you can, big or small, you're grateful for. Ready? Let's start. We're not sketching yet. This is simply a mental and emotional warm up. The words you can write could be as simple as music, family, health, my parents, being alive, and so on. You don't need to write words I'm grateful for each time. Just list things you're grateful for as they come to you. Don't filter or overthink. Don't worry about grammar, spelling, or structure. Just let the words spill into the page. Time is up. Now, count how many words you wrote down. Just give yourself a quick total and write the number at the bottom of your list. If any words feel especially powerful or seem to pop off the page, consider highlighting or circling them. If you wrote down 20 or more words, that's a sign your neural pathways related to gratitude are highly activated. You're tuned in, emotionally connected, and ready to translate that into your drawing. If you wrote fewer than 20 words, it's okay too. I suggest asking yourself, is this topic important to me? Is it charged enough? Does it carry any significance to me? Or maybe you were analyzing too much as you wrote, trying to get it right instead of letting it flow. And that's totally normal. Let's move on to the drawing. Take a fresh sheet of paper. This will be your main drawing page. And let's start drawing circles. Each circle will represent a key point from your gratitude list. Think of each circle as a symbol, a visual placeholder for something or someone you deeply appreciate. If you need to grab your list with the words you wrote down and you want to take a look at them, that's perfectly okay. In my case, first circle represents health. I'll be honest, at first I'm surprised because it's not typical for me to start with health. However, I'm making a mental note of it. The second circle is kindness. Very interesting choice. I asked myself, why kindness? I don't have the answer yet. And a couple of seconds later, my subconsciousness or my mind tells me, oh, well, yes, kindness, because I have not been kind to myself lately. I spend long hours working. I skip my workouts. Something to be more aware of and pay attention to. The next circle is teachers, and so on. So I'm moving along in choosing the words from the list I previously created, and then putting those circles, those shapes on my drawing. Ask yourself, what are you grateful for? Which words did you choose from your list? Were those things you're grateful for? Or somebody maybe you're grateful to? Who do you want to express the gratitude to? It does not have to be necessarily from the list. You might come up with something else as you're drawing. In my case, as I said, the first circle is health, then it's teachers, and there are some other circles I chose to place on my drawing. I suggest choosing about 6 to 8 items from your list that feel most meaningful to you right now. There is no right or wrong number. However, the optimal number would be between 6 and 8. There is a reason for that, why I chose those numbers, but we're not going to talk about it at this particular class. As you draw each circle, you can either write the word inside or beside the circle to label it. Some of my students like to name their circles to stay grounded in the intention. Others prefer to keep their drawing free of text. It's entirely up to you. Both ways are acceptable. Now that we're done drawing our circles, we're going to connect them. Take your marker or pen and begin drawing neurographic lines from one circle to another in any direction you would like. Let the lines curve and move organically. Don't plan too much. Remember, neurographic line goes in the direction where you don't expect to see it. These are not straight or rigid lines. They're fluid, intuitive connection. Ask yourself, how does your body feel? How are you doing emotionally? Once we've connected all of our circles with neurographic lines, we are going to move to the next step, rounding off the corners. Anywhere lines intersected, where angles or sharp corners formed, we're going to soften them by rounding them off. This is where transformation begins. Rounding corners is about smoothing emotional friction. It represents making peace with complexity, integrating different aspects of ourselves into harmony. As you work, keep tuning into your experience. Ask yourself, how am I feeling now? What emotions am I experiencing? Happiness, sadness, maybe you're concerned, maybe you're very tense, maybe you're too focused and you're trying to get it all right. Is there a sense of ease? Maybe resistance? When we're drawing neurographics, we're self reflecting, we're practicing self observation. When we're drawing neurographics, there are four main points of awareness I suggest you observe. The first one would be physical sensations. And you can do it by asking yourself a question. What's happening in my body? For example, you might notice that your legs are crossed. If you do notice that, I suggest you uncross them. Maybe your body is signaling that you're closing off from something. If your legs are crossed and you're working in a certain area of your drawing, look, which circle are you working on right now? What does the circle represent? That might be a hint that you're shying away from something. That's your body telling you that you are perhaps rejecting something. The second point I suggest you pay attention to is emotional response. What feelings are you having right now? Are you happy, sad, alert, angry? The third point would be mental activity. What thoughts are present? The fourth point would be symbolic insight. Are any images, metaphors, memories appearing? Some of us are very visual people. A good exercise would be to stop for a couple of seconds, close your eyes, and see if there is any image you might notice. And then continue drawing. Open your eyes, of course, and continue drawing. Take your time rounding the corners. Let this be a calming process. Each softened edge is a step toward integration, peace, and possibility. Rounding off the corners is a very meditative process, but I want to remind you to bring your attention back to the drawing, to the topic we're drawing today. Our topic is gratitude. So if you notice that your attention has shifted, bring it back. Let's say sometimes we might start thinking about what to make for dinner. Right now, we're not drawing dinner, we're drawing my gratitude. This is what sets neurographics apart from any other art techniques because we're always drawing with intention and we're always focused on staying in the process and keeping the intention. And our intention today is to focus on gratitude. Another helpful tip I want to give you to pause for a second and really look at your drawing. And then notice what part of the drawing you were working on and ask yourself what your feelings were and what your emotions were. Sometimes, if we're feeling a certain, if we're having a certain reaction or certain emotion, and we're working where, and we notice where the tip of our marker was, it might reveal how we feel particularly about this area of our life. And I'll give you an example. Hopefully it will demonstrate better what I mean. For example, when I was rounding off the corners near my teacher's circle, I suddenly moved away from it and even crossed my legs. That caught my attention right away. As an experienced neurographics instructor, I asked myself, why did I shy away from this circle? Why did I move away so quickly? I even felt a little tension in my back. Looking at the word teachers again, I realized something important. All of a sudden, I had the thought that I don't express enough gratitude to my teachers. I don't say thank you as often as I could. That little bodily reaction, a quick withdrawal and crossed legs, was my subconsciousness telling me something. So I wrote this insight down on my notes page, and I will make sure that I'm going to send emails and call the teachers who have helped me through my own journey, especially those from the Psychology and Creativity Institute, where I trained, and I'm going to thank them properly. This drawing process gave me a concrete action step just by paying attention. Then, when I moved into third circle, fresh air, everything felt completely different. I drew with ease, joy, and flow. The lines came quickly, effortlessly. This circle clearly represents a source of energy and inspiration for me. A breath of fresh air in my life. It recharges me and sparks creativity. And it was very easy to work in that circle. These subtle clues from my body, my emotions, my flow of drawing show me what really matters and where my inner strengths lie. This is the magic of neurographics. Step by step, line by line, corner by corner, we discover new things about ourselves and create possibilities for transformation. As you continue, I invite you to ask yourself regularly, where am I on the page right now? Which circle am I working on? Stay focused. Which corners am I rounding? What circle am I working with? Like what gratitude I'm working with? If this is your first time drawing neurographics, it might be challenging, of course, to stay with the drawing focused. But again, I encourage you to take time and notice, how do you feel mentally, physically, emotionally? Maybe there are some images popping up in your head. Good questions to ask yourself would be, what sensations do I feel in my body? What thoughts or images pop up? Am I feeling calm, uneasy, excited, or something else? Now, I looked at my drawing and noticed that there are some spaces, some areas on my drawing which are left plain without neurographic line. And visually, I feel like there is some kind of imbalance. And I want to fill them up. I want to add more neurographic lines. I feel it intuitively. That's what I want to do. But also visually, I feel like, well, a couple of spaces on my drawing are way too empty. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just add those lines there. And you can do the same thing. Look at your drawing and see if you need to add more lines at this point. If certain part of your drawing feels too empty, you can even grab a thinner marker. Sometimes it will create more depth. I'm going to stick to the one I started from the beginning. In our busy, fast-paced culture, it's easy to take things and people for granted. We rush through life and rarely pause to recognize all the blessings around us. Maybe you feel deeply grateful for certain people or moments, but you haven't yet found the chance to say thank you. That would be a great opportunity right now to make a note in your note section. And maybe once you're done drawing today, you can take time and thank those people properly. Now, if you, like me, chose to add more lines to your drawing, of course, make sure to round off all the new intersections and all the corners you created. Here's something interesting. Sometimes life brings challenges, difficult moments, or even hardships. But even in those tough times, gratitude can be a profound tool. It helps us reframe, heal, and find strength. If we begin any challenge in life from a place of gratitude, something remarkable happens. The energy shift. Situations start unfolding differently, often in unexpected and positive directions. So if you're currently facing a tough situation, I invite you to start your neurographics drawing with gratitude. Think about the challenge you're going through right now. See if you can find even one thing to be grateful for in that experience. Maybe this challenge is actually an opportunity, a chance to learn, grow, and turn things to your advantage. If you want real change in your life, let it begin with gratitude, whether spoken, written, or through a powerful practice like neurographics drawing, which we are doing right now. Neurographics is a beautiful and deeply effective method that can elevate your life by increasing your self awareness and fostering personal growth. Believe me, I'm speaking from experience. I wouldn't be here teaching you if I hadn't practiced every lesson myself. I have drawn hundreds of neurographic drawings. I've tested these techniques on myself again and again, and I'm a skeptic at heart. I love new ideas, but I always ask questions and test their true impact. Only after seeing real, meaningful changes in my life and witnessing the transformation in my students did I decide to record this class and share it with you. The more people will know about this, the better. We're all constantly looking for ways to improve our lives, no matter how good things are already. And this technique, this neurographics drawing, our neurographics art, is a great, powerful tool. As you listen to me, keep working on your drawing by rounding off the intersections and corners. Listening is great, and I hope it keeps you engaged. But at the same time, we're working deeply on your subconscious through the drawing. Now that all the circles are in place and they are connected with the neurographic lines, we're moving on to the next step. That's actually a fun step. We're going to introduce color to our drawing. And here's a choice now. You can pick any color you want and start coloring your drawing. In my case, I'm going to choose purple. For some reason, I intuitively want to start coloring from the top right corner and move downward. This creates a nice flow for me. What color did you pick? Or what part of the drawing did you start from? There are a couple of ways to go here. One is consciously choose a color and then consciously start from a certain circle. You mentally, almost analytically choose what's important or which circle do you want it to start from. Or you can just intuitively choose the color and then start introducing the color from that part of the drawing. As you pick your color, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what does this color mean to me right now? Yes, I know, we're asking ourselves a lot of questions as we are drawing because this is not just meditative practice, but it's also a practice where we're trying to connect conscious and subconscious, and we're looking for answers. So, what does this color mean to me right now? For me, purple represents intuition and something bigger than myself. It's that quiet knowing, like when you sense something true without fully understanding why. When you know this is true, this is right, but you're not sure why does it feel so right. You just know that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Purple feels like a connection to a higher power, a deeper wisdom. I hope it makes sense to you. In your case, you might choose a different color and it will have a different meaning for you. A good rule of thumb is keep working with the color until you've had enough of it. Don't go picking and choosing colors and switching them way too often. Look at your drawing, and in my case, for example, I'm gonna use the purple as much as I can and go in different directions in my drawing. Of course, I'm not going to force it. I'm going to trust my intuition. I'm going to trust my hand. However, I'm not going to change the color at this point because it feels good. In other words, I'm going to stick with this purple until I feel that I'm ready to move on. There are a couple of rules in neurographics when introducing color. When we're drawing neurographics, we color over the lines in one continuous flow. Don't color in small separate segments, like coloring one piece, then stopping, then moving to another. Instead, my hand is moving smoothly over the lines, creating a continuous space filled with the same color. I know at first you might, especially if you're a beginner and this is your first drawing, you might feel a resistance. I personally did. I felt like my neurographic lines because I was introducing color and I was going over that line, it was losing this boldness. It was losing this bright color, that intense black. It was becoming more like grayish. But this is what we want. This is the proper way to draw neurographics. So please, if you're experiencing a resistance, just work with it, go over it, keep drawing, keep bringing the color in. And if eventually you still feel like it doesn't feel comfortable to you, you can always trace over those black neurographic lines and make them brighter again. But I'm pretty sure that you'll be okay with it. The second rule is at least two neighboring segments should be the same color. We are not creating a mosaic of isolated color patches. The goal is to connect colors across segments to support the feeling of unity and flow. At least two neighboring segments should be the same color. Now I'm ready to move on to a different color and introduce yellow to my drawing. And yellow for me is happiness, light, mm, and fun, fun and creativity. It's something bright. I don't know. Yellow always makes me happy. So, what colors did you choose? What is the next color you're moving on to? And what do you associate it with? Ask yourself those questions. While coloring, you might notice something you've missed, like a corner you forgot to round off earlier, and that's okay. Just stop for a second, round off the corner because that's a very important part, and move on. While you're bringing color to your drawing, I'm gonna cover some questions which I often get. For example, can I leave certain parts of my drawing white? The answer is yes. You can leave segments white because white is also a color and we treat it just like any other color. And the same rules will apply when it comes to color flow. So if you decided to introduce white or leave certain segments white, make sure that at least two neighboring segments are white color. There should not be any standalone white segments. At minimum, there should always be at least two neighboring segments of the same color. We want to avoid creating a mosaic effect where every little piece is isolated and disconnected. Because the goal of drawing neurographics art or neurographics is to create continuous flowing color experience that feels unified and harmonious. As you color, remember to keep your strokes fluid and continuous. Don't color small isolated segments one at a time. Make sure to color over the neurographic lines, flowing smoothly from one part to the next. During this coloring and archetype creating phase, the key is to maintain one continuous color flow, crossing over those neurographic lines to unify our drawing. As you're bringing color to your drawing, please keep checking the four focal points I told you about earlier: body, emotions, thoughts, images. What thoughts are crossing my mind? Maybe you're recalling something from earlier in the class, or maybe you're having a breakthrough while you were drawing. Maybe there's some revelations, some thoughts crossed your mind, and you feel like you need to stop and make a note. Ask yourself, what emotions are you experiencing? Are you feeling happy, frustrated, inspired? Notice how your mood has changed. For example, from when you started to draw and right now when you move to the coloring part of the process. Remember that you have extra piece of paper next to you, and if you need to write down any thoughts or breakthroughs, please feel free to do so. I absolutely love drawing and coloring with pencils, and I highly recommend you try it too. There is something special about using pencils. First of all, they create a powerful connection between your mind and your fingers. And it actually helps form new neural pathways because your brain works a little harder coordinating the delicate pressure and movement. So I encourage you to challenge yourself and explore pencils. But you can always use highlighters, of course. The benefit of highlighters would be that the coloring part will go much faster. So if you're in a rush and you don't have too much time on your hands, you can choose highlighters. So both of those tools are acceptable. Coloring pencils or highlighters, just make sure, like sometimes I get a question, can I choose the crayons? And my answer would be no, because you will see once we move to the next step of the drawing, you will see that it will be harder because we're going to be drawing additional neurographic lines. And you will see that drawing over the crayons would be almost impossible because they're like sort of waxy texture. So I don't recommend it. Right now, as we are coloring, we're in the step called coloring or creating archetypes. This is where we take the smaller shapes we created earlier and we merge them into larger unified forms. Symbolically, this represents the formation of new neural connections and patterns in our brain. At the start of our drawing, we placed individual shapes like puzzles pieces scattered on the page. It's almost like we broke down whatever idea we had, that idea of gratitude, into small pieces. And at first, that idea wasn't connected. It's almost like a breaking down the project into smaller steps or smaller pieces. And that's great because what we need to do is, like, sometimes our brain has to break down a big idea into small pieces, into small steps. And then using neurographic lines, we connected all those shapes and we linked them together. And interestingly, now we're trying to actually put all those smaller pieces into one big idea. And by adding colors, we're bringing those pieces together into a unified whole, creating a bigger picture, a larger idea. But this larger idea is a new reality, because in order for us to create a new reality, we have to break it down in small pieces and then reassemble it and create a new reality. And that's pretty much what we're doing right now. And in this case, right now, it's the idea of gratitude. We bring it all together. I'm choosing to bring pink color and it makes me so happy. It represents, in my case, in my topic, in my drawing, it represents love and creativity. It's pretty much neurographics for me. When I ask myself to narrow down to what creativity means for me right now in my life, that means doing neurographics. And it's almost like the same idea where it, like, the love and neurographics, they blend into the like pink color. It's together. So I guess I would say love for neurographics. Ask yourself, what color are you working with right now? And what does it represent to you? Also, you can ask yourself or notice, where did this color go? If you know that, for example, certain color means something to you in this drawing, and then it filters into a certain circle, like teachers or health or fresh air or water or appearance, ask yourself and notice, where did this particular car go to? For example, my love, like pink, went into circle teachers. Okay. That tells me something, that maybe I should express more love towards my teachers, show them that I care. And some pink went outside of the circles, and outside, typically outside of our circles, does represent the society, the surroundings around us. And I feel like I want to spread and spill my love to the people who surround me, to express it more outside versus keeping it inside. Because again, it didn't just go into the circle, which represents certain things. It's sort of like spilled over, went beyond the circles. So I feel like it's neurographics, and I should share love for neurographics with others. Again, that's just an example. Ask yourself, what does this mean to you, the color you're working with? And now let's move on to the next step, adding field lines. Field lines are bold, flowing neurographic lines that stretch across our entire drawing. They go from one edge of the paper to another. The field lines are organic, soft, and almost like veins carrying life force into our artwork. So grab a thicker marker if you have it available. If you don't, you can use the same one. What will happen is you will need to trace it over several times to make the field lines bolder. The purpose of the field line is to enrich and amplify our drawing, especially our intentions behind it. For example, if you're drawing gratitude for something that hasn't happened yet, this line helps to realize that intention and manifest it as if it already is part of your life. I decided to draw my neurographic line or my field line from the bottom left corner all the way to the top right corner. And because I don't have a very thick marker, I'm just tracing the lines. I'm going to go over the line several times. In neurographics, field line represents an energy greater than ourselves. For some of us, it might be God. For others, the universe, nature, or simply energy. Scientists might call it a form of universal energy or field. You can choose what resonates with you. The most important part is that we all agree we're not the strongest source of energy in the universe. The field lines represent that supportive greater force. The field line goes from one edge of the drawing to the other edge of the drawing. So it cannot stop in the middle. As far as how many field lines we can draw, there could be one field line or several. It's your choice. In my drawing, I'm not sure how many I'm going to draw right now, but I'm going to trust my hand and I'm going to look at my drawing and figure out if I need more support. I feel like one might be not enough because it kind of looks lonely and I feel like the drawing is not very charged. I might need more support. So let me think about it. Where do I want my line to go? Where do I want to draw my field line? In my case, the field line represents the universe supporting me. And it is that powerful, ever present energy flowing through my life and through my drawing. The field line symbolizes a journey, the flow of energy supporting me as I round off the corners, connect shapes, and express gratitude. So I decided to add another field line to my drawing. And as I'm tracing the second line and as I'm putting it on my drawing, I feel more steady. I feel like more support. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but as the thicker that field line becomes, the more confident I become. It's like putting my intention out there, visually manifesting my gratitude and my growth on the paper. As I'm drawing these field lines, I'm setting a powerful intention. I'm asking the universe to give me energy and support, both to be grateful for what I already have and to help me manifest what I don't have yet, but deeply desire. As I said, I started with first field line, but it wasn't enough for me. I almost immediately felt like it's not enough. Visually, my drawing didn't feel balanced. And it was like almost pulling the energy too much to the left side of my drawing. And intuitively, I sensed that I need more support, more energy flowing through this piece. And that's why I decided to add a second field line. And now it feels so different. It feels balanced, strong, energized. I literally can feel it in my chest. It's like sense of expansion. It's almost like a deep breath that fills me with possibilities. So pause for a moment and check in with yourself. How do you feel after drawing your field lines? Does your drawing feel complete and energized? Or does it feel heavy, too busy, or off somehow? There is no right or wrong answer, just your honest feeling. Now, it's important to round off all the corners and intersections created by these bold field lines. Because the field lines are thick, they create fewer intersections than the thinner neurographic lines, so this part moves quickly, but it's essential, so please don't skip it. Why? Because no one wants to be in conflict with the universe or with that greater source of energy we are connecting to. And now we're ready to move on to the next step, which is called the fixing step. That's where we choose a single shape in our drawing, a focal point of our drawing, and we fix it by going over it many, many times with a thick marker. Again, if you don't have a thick marker, you can use the same one, just trace it several times. This shape represents a solution, decision, or insight that you've arrived at by the end of your drawing process. Now, sometimes the solution is clear and obvious. Like in my case today, it was very simple for me and came to me very quickly. Teachers. Like this fixing step or focal point of my drawing is teachers. And as I already mentioned, my intention is right after I finish this drawing to go ahead and write emails or call my teachers. I'll figure out how I'm going to do it. The most important thing is that I already chose what's my next step would be and what my focal point is. I have to express gratitude to my teachers. And again, sometimes, like in my case, the solution is clear and obvious, and you might already know what you need to do or what next step needs to be taken to overcome a challenge. Other times, it's not immediately clear, and that's perfectly okay. If you don't know what your fixing shape means right now, give it time. However, I still suggest approach that step by choosing this focal point. For example, intuitively, just choose one shape which stands out to you, which you really want to trace, or you might actually make a conscious decision because you know which shape represents what on your drawing. Logically, choose that particular circle and make it your focal point. So, again, two choices. One, trust your hand and go from a static point and look at your drawing as a piece of art And whatever is looking at you, whatever shape, whatever circle is kind of staring at you, you can choose that shape and make it your focal point, or go from to a different approach where you can consciously mm, choose and a designated circle and make it your focal point. Now, the rule is that the focal point would be thicker than any other circles on your drawing. Make sure you go over it several times. And if you created additional intersections, sharp corners, of course, you need to round them off. You can only have one fixing shape, one focal point. That's because the solution or decision you're focusing on should be clear and singular. Once you completed this step, your drawing is essentially finished. Congratulations! You've done some deep work, you've created transformation, and most importantly, you've created new neural pathways. And before we finish, I want to leave you with a few reflective questions. What has changed for you? If you compare how you felt at the beginning of your drawing and how do you feel right now? Notice any shift in your body, emotions, or mindset. What is your overall feeling after completing the drawing? How are you different? Take a moment to really tune into these questions. And if you can summarize the answer to that question, that would be great. If you can reflect it or summarize it into one or two words and write it, that would be a great shift you have created. In my case, when I ask myself that question, what has changed? My creativity increased. My creative flow is up and high, and I really want to go and do something about it. I'm so inspired to record more lessons. The second shift, I've noticed that I really am eager to go and express my gratitude to my mentors, to my teachers, and I feel very uplifted. So I hope you are experiencing a shift as well. If you have a moment, write it down. That would be a great summary or conclusion to your work you have done. Take a moment to really tune into the questions and answer it. If this was your very first neurographic drawing, congratulations. I hope you enjoyed this journey as much as I did guiding you. Be patient with yourself and keep paying attention to any changes you notice within the next few days. Often, subtle but meaningful shifts happen, sometimes within just the first 3 days. If something significant arises, a breakthrough, a new perspective, or a positive change, please feel free to share your experience. Sharing your story is powerful. Why? Because the more we share our positive shifts and transformations, the more we inspire others to explore this incredible tool called neurographics. Be open to receiving. The universe is ready to support you. Thank you for being part of this experience.